Good morning and welcome back to Mortars and Motors. In today's video I am going to attempt to change all the ignition components in this my Mk1 Fiesta. Electronic ignition kit instead of the points and condenser, new distributor cap, HT leads, spark plugs. Is that it? Something like that anyway. And then once that is running, and then I will be getting my adjustment tools out and getting the carburetor fine-tuned, if I can, to run at the exact specifications that it should be running at. So let's get cracking. You might be wondering why I am doing the ignition stuff before I get the carburetor completely set up properly. And that's because the Haynes manual says, before carrying out the carburetor adjustment, ensure all of the engine variables, contact breaker points gap, ignition timing, spark plug gap, valve clearance has been checked and adjusted to their specified settings. So I've done the valve clearances. Points gap is obviously going to be replaced by the electronic ignition, so we may as well kind of do that now. Ignition timing I will check when we've done the electronic ignition, and the spark plug gap will be obviously sorted when I put the new spark plugs in. So it makes sense to do it now, which means that then when we're adjusting the carburetor, that's the very final thing, because it runs, it's fine, it's just not perfect. But before we get to all that, let's just give it a start, kind of a cold start this morning, and just kind of double check that it does still run before I start doing all the other adjustments, so that if something goes wrong during the ignition stuff, I know that the carb is still okay. Right, choke out. There's no choke light on the Mk1 Fiesta, so you kind of forget that you have your choke out. Hey, it's come to life. Good stuff. She runs, she lives, I'm so pleased. Woohoo! Go motoring soon. It smells quite rich. I'll sort it in a bit. Okay, I'm just taking the first spark plug out. Which actually doesn't look that bad, it's a bit black, but it's kind of to be vaguely expected. But anyway, I'm going to get a hoover and just kind of clean up all that crap around the edge of it before any of it risks falling into the engine. I've got a new spark plug out, I've checked the spark plug gap, it should be 0.8 of a millimetre, and it is 0.8 of a millimetre. So time to get this and one new HT lead on the car and keep going. That's the first one done, let's repeat for the other three. Okay, 4 new spark plugs, 4 new HT leads, and a new king lead from the coil. Let's give it a start and just make sure all of that is okay before I move on to the next step. Okay, well, it runs on the new spark plugs, so that's good. Next step. Okay, next job is just to replace the distributor cap then. So I just need to basically unhook the distributor cap from the distributor, which I can do whilst holding the camera probably. Easier said than done. Okay, well, those clips just need to be released, and then I need to swap off each of those little leads in order. The old distributor cap looks alright, but it's a bit worn and a bit skanky inside. Also must notice that they are not perfectly round, so there's a kind of a round section there and a squared off section there, so I've got to make sure that I have the new one the right way around, which I do, so I will just transfer those leads over. Okay, those are all swapped over onto the new distributor. There's the old one there, and I've also put on a new rotor arm. So let's put that back on, start the car, make sure it all starts, and then we can do the electronic ignition. Okay, so the first thing to notice is make sure that the coil is wired the correct way round, because if you wire the electronic ignition kit the wrong way around onto the coil, then it will blow. because you can't run it backwards. You can run a points condenser system backwards, but not electronic ignition. So looking at my coil, that is marked as a negative, and the negative is the lead that goes to the distributor. The positive goes into this black and yellow wire just here, which then pops out here of the wiring loom and enters this here, which is a ballast resistor wire that kind of just goes along there, loops back on itself and comes back to here, and that is the 12-volt feed from the ignition side of the car, and that is going to, by process of elimination hopefully, and also that little mark there, that is going to the positive side of the coil. So that is correct. Someone hasn't sort of swapped these over accidentally at some point, so that's good. That means we can continue. Now, because this is a ballast resistor coil, it says on it there that it says only used with a ballast resistor. This is the ballast resistor wire. We need to wire the electronic ignition kit into this connector here, which is the one that comes from the live feed on the ignition. So I'm going to have to open this connector up and figure out how to connect up the positive feed to the kit, but we'll deal with that in a bit. The first job, which is probably the harder one, is actually getting it all in the right place inside the distributor. So here is a close-up of the inside of the points and condenser system inside the distributor. This is a Ford Motorcraft distributor. Sometimes you could have a Bosch one, but this is the Motorcraft one. That's the condenser, and those are the points or the contact breakers. So I think I need to unhook all of these from the car or from the distributor, leaving just the base plate, and then we can continue and install the base plate connectors on the kit. Okay, that is points and condenser removed from the distributor. I've also taken out this little rubber bung there that was to kind of the exit of the wires. So I've taken that out as well, and hopefully, there it is. Hopefully I'll be able to refit that to the wires from the electronic kit so that they nicely sort of seal on the way out of the dizzy. Okay, here's my little module, and it says to establish the correct position is the first step, which I think I have done so. It looks like it's just going to be screwed into those two screws in the base plate there. So the next step is to put a little bit of silicone heat sink on the back of that, which comes in the kit, and then screw that into place using the existing screws. Okay, kit's in place. Next is to get the kind of trigger ring, they call it. You can see it's kind of squared off to meet the squared off cams on the distributor. So we need to squeeze that onto place. Yep, that's it in place. Nicely done. And it says they shouldn't touch, which they don't. So that's good. There's a little cable tie in the kit to just cable tie these wires together slightly out of the way so they don't interfere with anything. And I managed to, actually the kit comes with a new rubber bung, so I just used their rubber bung that's already in place on the wires. So I just tie those in place, and then I can put the rotor arm and distributor cap back on. Okay, rotor arms go on. It's on. Yeah. Reach the distributor cap over. See, we get that on too. Yep, that's in the right position. I'll just click it into place. So it says the black wire should go to the negative side of the coil. That is definitely the negative side of the coil. On that goes, and I'll get a nut to keep that nicely in place. Okay, it says in the kit that you should remove all radio suppressors, which is what that is. So I'm just going to remove that from the positive side. The next step is to connect the red wire from the new kit to the positive side of the coil, but the 12-volt side of the ballast resistor. So that would be this black wire here that comes out of the wiring loom. I have now fashioned a little junction here for it so that hopefully you can see that, I'll just wiggle that a little bit more. hopefully you can see that there is the original bullet connector to the ballast resistor wire is still there. Then I just spliced in basically a kind of a couple of spade connectors, and one of those spade connectors has a spur, and to that spur I've attached the red wire from the distributor. Well, that is everything set up. I'm really nervous because I really don't want to get it wrong and blow it. But I suppose I better check it and start the car. Help. Okay, I've double checked everything, so time to give it a go. I'm very nervous about this. Let's get the check out. Okay. Make sure we're in neutral. We are. Oh yeah, connect the battery, that'd be helpful, wouldn't it? All my precautions, you see, disconnect the battery before you start playing with electricals. Always remember to reconnect it when you're about to start doing things. Oh, yay! Hey, that runs. Yes! Okay, it's a bit rough, but that's... Hey! Okay, so electronic ignition is a success. Next job then, tune up the carburetor. Okay, so we've got the slightly jumping about, but we've got the idle somewhere between sort of 770 and 830, so it seems to settle to that occasionally. My Accuspark is hopefully slightly visible. And I think we've got a blurry kind of tinge to it there. And we've got my timing. I have no idea whether you're going to see that. But I've lined it up with about 12 degrees. It should be about 10, but I've advanced it very slightly because the electric ignition is slightly more efficient. And I think that seems to be where it's happiest at. Fairly momentous moment in any sort of engine rebuild to have the air cleaner go back on. Woohoo! And of course a nice new air cleaner element to go into it.